Good evening. Namaste. So, yes, if someone is here, I see, yes, someone is here. If the people connected could tell me if they can hear me right by putting a little comment, that would be welcome. So, is the sound okay? Loud and clear. Perfect. Very good. So while waiting for more people maybe to join, I invite us just to take a moment of resting in the heart. So I invite you to close your eyes and sit with the spine straight, yet relaxed. Just taking a moment of deep relaxation. Inviting all the senses, all that is alive right now, to be embraced from a place of love and detachment. A place of complete acceptance of what is right now, whatever it is. And while we accept maybe those sounds, those sensations, maybe there are thoughts, emotions, we recognize a deeper aspect of our being, something that embraces all that arises. And maybe we feel that everything is perfect just as it is. Just the simplicity and fullness of this very present moment. Without trying to change anything. Just fully embracing. As Ramana Maharshi says, let what come, come. And let what go, go. and stay with what remains. And when we feel like it, at our own time, we can open the eyes. So good evening again. Namaste. I'm very pleased to join this Facebook Live. It's the first time for me, and I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to share. Thanks to Kalyan Yoga, Sabina and Adam. And tonight we will share on a beautiful topic. I think I'm the third one to share on this topic this month. And the topic of tonight is the integration of spirituality. And things were shared last week and the week before, and we'll continue to explore this topic from, as they said, from my unique experience, my expertise, I want to say, that's not the word, from my own life experience, because it's so true that there is this one consciousness and infinite perspective. I often listen to a beautiful teacher, a French teacher called Patrick Buron-Stenas. He calls himself an alchemist. And he has this beautiful analogy that I'd like to share with you. He says that we are all somehow placed on a sphere, and the game in life is to find the center. So there is this sphere, this beautiful sphere, and there is the center of the sphere. And somehow the game of the human being is your center. But we are placed maybe on this, not on the same spot of this sphere. And I might be here, me, myself, Louis, with my life experience, and I want to go to the center, so I go this way. And you might be on the other side of the sphere, and the center is here. It's the same center for everybody. And I cannot force a path on you to say this is the direction, because if I go this direction, you would get more away from what you're looking for, which is yourself. So I'd like to start with this because I might be speaking for half an hour, but my invitation is just take what you need, what inspires you, and live all the rest. If something resonates, very good. This is beautiful. And yes, this is what I wanted to share. So to start with our topic about integration of daily life into spirituality, here we can all see that the phrase could be turned in another way. It could be integration of spirituality into daily life. But this has a much deeper meaning, a much more strength somehow, to see that what we want to integrate is not spirituality into daily life, so to put spirituality on top of something which is daily life, but to integrate daily life on top of spirituality. Spirituality being the base, the ground from which we will move into daily life. So the question arises, what is spirituality? Here there might be people who are really committed into a spiritual path, that have a practice of meditation or um, different types of yoga or spiritual practices since years. Maybe some of you who look are just very curious, so, and do not really have a daily practice. So spirituality, we could phrase it in many ways. Many people would have many ways to express, but from my words, it would be like touching the depth of this being, this deep sense of beingness. It's a simplicity. It is something utterly simple, beyond the complexity of the mind. A way of, yes, of feeling this, just a harmony, as if nothing is to be changed. There's a complete embrace in yourself. You don't want to get better in anything. It's a domain, this depth, that cannot be changed. That is so we could call it this feeling of deep inner peace, of harmony, of fulfillment, of unconditional love, unconditional joy. This is how we could name it, how I could name it, this spirit. And then we have daily life. Daily life would be our social position, our jobs, our hobbies, our passions, our relationships with our lover, with our friends, with our family. And here we come back to this integration of daily life into spirituality. What is my priority? Of course, we're human beings and we explore outside, and very few humans seek a sense of fulfillment by going inside, by inner peace, by seeking this sense of harmony, fulfillment, this simplicity. And there are many beings which, thank God, I want to say, lived on this earth to inspire us. You have the photo of Ramana just up there. You have a little representation of Buddha also. Those beings that lived this life, that were known to have realized the self. This is another word from this core of our being that I will use through this small lecture, is the self. And those beings who lived in this truth in a daily basis, they would experience this experience of the self, which is the same core that we can find in any human being. If any human being really allow themselves to go deep inside through maybe meditation, is a way that is really recommended, and that helped me to somehow myself took some veils off to start to have a very small taste of what is to get closer to this essence. Well, those beings left us a tremendous inspiration. And the invitation for any human being, they said themselves, Ramana quotes and says, the greatest gift that you can give to humanity is to realize the self. He says the only purpose of a human life is to realize the self. And this seems very far out, but at the end, even if it's very far, it's worth taking this direction, to go towards this center, no matter where we are on this sphere, to take this direction in our center. And you see that I always point here, because in many traditions, this is where we belong. This is where we truly belong. Sahajananda, our beautiful teacher, maybe a lot of people who share through this network in Kalyani Yoga often quote Hridaya Yoga because we met there, most of us, and were deeply touched by the teachings of Hridaya Yoga. And the leader of Hridaya Yoga, Sahajananda, often says, like, if you ask, and it's so true, I mean, I'm sure that many other people than Sahaja realize this, that if you point at yourself, you never point at your mind. You don't say me, this is me. You say who you're speaking to me, to me. You can say, oh, I thought about something, but if you point at yourself, it will always be there. And somehow, this direction towards the heart needs a certain commitment to go deep. So before integrating daily life into spirituality, we need to have a taste of this spirit. And to taste this spirit, my personal experience, my wish would be for every human being to experience, even if it's a little glimpse once in this life, just a complete sense of deep love, which has no condition, which is not sparked by a lover or a sunset or anything external, but just by going inside, cracking up something to see that there's nothing to seek outside, everything is there. And to have a glimpse of this or an experience of this, my recommendation would be allow yourself to take the time for yourself to be alone. Of course, there are institutions that do this. Vipassana or many yoga schools as Hridaya Yoga offer different types of retreats, 3 days, 7 days sometimes, 10 days mostly. I recommend 10 as an experience where you are in silence for 10 days completely in silence, even avoiding looking directly people in the eyes, just a time for yourself. There are so few human beings that allow themselves to let go of the watch and sit down for 10 days with themselves. How many time do I spend with just myself? And through this process, which can be quite a ride for some people, for myself for sure, I never did this in my life, and 3 years ago I started to have a calling to be with myself, and through recommendations of friends I found this school and I went and I sat with myself, and it's unbelievable how you can allow, through just sitting and being quiet, allow emotions to come up, to be seen and to be released. And then there's a sense of harmony that arises itself. Maybe during the retreat it's hard, but after retreat you feel that you can be more attuned with everything, with all other people, with nature, and you realize that it is nourishing to go there, to take the time to just sit with yourself and be a bit alone in quietness, allow a bit more silence in your life, is a gift, is such a gift, such a gift. So the invitation is to maybe be curious. What does he mean by going inside, by finding yourself? And curiosity is welcome, is more than welcome, because we all, even if we don't face it, we all have a wonderment of who am I truly? Am I those constant changing thoughts and desires? Am I always running after something? Is there a moment in my life where I can finally settle and be. So the invitation to find this, go deep. I'm personally on the side of being into yoga and meditation. One of my passions in life is free diving, and I could see how much through the experience of free diving, how much when you let go, when you drop and you go into relaxation, really inviting relaxation, just this, just inviting relaxation in your life, how much you can go somehow even further in what you're doing and more focused on what you're doing. If you start from the surface in freediving and you want to go very deep, at the beginning you can go with your own will and just like sense of going for it. You can maybe reach, but after a certain depth, if you do not really allow this relaxation to provide and you're forgetting about yourself, about what you want, and just this deep sense of relaxation, we can go deeper. So yes, not forcing anything, not grasping anything, not wanting to go, just by relaxing, the way opens somehow. Somehow I wanted to share this with you guys. And then what? Then I go and do retreats and find a sense of peace, a sense of fulfillment, a sense of ease with myself, with others, with even challenges. Like there's more ease and life flows more harmoniously. I put less pressure on myself. And then I can start to integrate daily life into this ground, into this base of living a harmonious, peaceful life. And Sahaja often says, it's not always la vie en rose. I'm from France. I like when he speaks French. It makes me laugh. And he says, it's not la vie en rose. It is not. It's true. There are challenges. And life is life. We may have kids or a family to provide for. We may have to work because, yes, I mean, this material world exists. And daily life could be seen as also including this materiality into spirituality. But the ground, the concern, the priority is always this sense of harmony. Always this, am I really aligned with my deepest longing, which is to live from this ground of more peace, more harmony, more recognition of this substratum of life, which is the most precious thing that a human being can experience. And this is only my words, but I'm sure that, and I hope that many share this. And sometimes we can get caught because we have this sense of inner peace and then we go back into daily life. And somehow we want to take spirituality with us and integrate it into daily life. And then daily life can take you back in old habits, and before you know it, half a year has passed, or maybe a year, and you realize that this ground that you touched, this base from which you wish you would build up your life, from this harmony, from this peace, this is gone, and you're going into worries and stress again. And it's a very fast moving world. it is a very fast moving world, and it's so easy and so natural. Therefore, the importance to switch completely the perspective and decide to integrate daily life into spirituality. This doesn't mean that we should be scared, that we should not welcome the challenges of life. Sometimes you have to go, and you, maybe myself, I talk about, I was living in a spiritual community for a year and a half in Mexico, not very caring about producing money and things, but somehow life's called me back. I feel like I need to go and spend more time with my family, maybe to see them more and confront myself with being close to them. And then I need money to take a plane and also to provide for myself, to be independent. So you cannot have so much time to meditate and to practice yoga. But it's so beautiful that even in the midst of this daily life, there is always space, there can be always space for silence and also peace and harmony. And daily life is such a teacher. It's such a teacher. When there are, like in meditation, when you're too drowsy and you fall asleep, it can be seen as a friend, as, whoop, I need to come back and readjust. If I'm too agitated and really in my mind and projects and projections and daydreaming and whatnot, then okay, also I come back. And it's the same in daily life. I can use this daily life as a friend, not being scared of being in it, embracing it, family, friends, work, hobbies, but all keeping this priority of, does it take me out, or do I embrace all this swirling from this center? So important for me, I said it a few times, not to be fearful, because the main, on the path of Tantra, of integrating consciousness and energy, this is the base. Like, we can decide to live an ascetic life, which is a choice, which is, I touch this ground and everything around is so disturbing. It takes me out and I want to cut myself from this. I can become a monk and go and live in the mountains somewhere, or in a monastery, even in France. I'm sure there's many places close from where my parents live that I could find to live a secluded life. It is a choice. And then I am in this ground. But some beings feel that this fullness of life is also a gift, is also beautiful, and is also something that we can integrate. And learning to, it is a fine to always stay focused and aligned, that does it take me too far, and do I lose this sense of harmony? Do I lose this ground of peace? Or, and then you know that you might have to go and take a retreat for 10 days or spend more time alone to stabilize this feeling, because this is like a little baby at first. It's so fragile. It needs so much nourishment and care and silence around. You don't scream around the baby. You don't do crazy things. You see a baby and you start to, well, not everybody, but it can bring this sense of more quietness and gentleness and care and kindness. And it's the same with ourselves, with this depth that we can taste through a retreat, or through maybe you go walking alone in a pilgrimage, and you're alone for 2 months, and you contemplate a lot, and you find this jewel inside of you. But it's very fragile at first. I think it's Ramakrishna that says that somehow we are like milk, and you're on a spiritual path or a spiritual aspirant, and you're like milk. You become softer and more pure, more white somehow. And then you go back into the world, and the world can be seen as water. But if you go too fast in the world, you get diluted completely. And he says for the spiritual aspirant, it's like when you make butter, you take the milk and you somehow you stir it, stir it, stir it, stir it, stir it until it's kind of becomes butter, and then you can float on top of the water. So what I mean by this is that we need to stir ourselves in this recognition again and again. So important. It is often outlined that there is an experience. Some call it a peak experience, some call it a direct experience, but there is an experience through meditation of this fulfillment or harmony or peace or deep love. And then there's this after experience. This experience is a jewel, is like, it's such a beautiful like inner garden that needs cultivation, somehow work and nourishment. You need to water it also, this beautiful inner garden, through constant practice. There is no bypassing of this somehow. That sitting every day, allowing yourself to have a formal practice of meditation or Qigong or Tai Chi, Hatha Yoga, to move the energies and bring a sense of harmony daily, daily, daily. So a consistency of the practice, of this vision, of this jewel that was found. Also an intensity of the experience, like to bring it again and again, not pushing, but like if you see this as something very precious, it needs at some point, yes, a certain intensity, I would say. This is the word I use. Also something beautiful is to nurture yourself from reading very inspirational quotes, poems, beautiful texts of people who lived in this truth of self-realization. Read a lot, inspire yourself. This is so important. And last of it is this willingness, this to continue in this direction. I'm on my sphere. Adam was talking about last week about bridging the gap from this domain of the ineffable, from this domain of the spirit, from the domain of personality of daily life. To bridge this gap, important to be willing to do this, to make changes in life that'll help you to go in this direction. Like a commitment with yourself that I know something is that I want to nurture this and I take this direction. So this is somehow the 4 milestones: the consistency of the practice, the intensity, the inspiration from reading poems and texts of realized beings, and the courage, I would say, or the willingness to continue in this direction. And something that time flies. Something that I would love to share also is that we can see how easy sometimes it is, in the name of this centeredness or depth to sometime not be fully present with our emotions, with what really is going on right now in our lives. And there is something that is known, is called spiritual bypassing, that in order in order not to it's not in order, it's somehow a kind of reaction that we can have that we don't really want to see. We're like pretending that we are in a space of complete fulfillment, but there is something inside us. There is something, maybe a deep emotion that wants to be seen, wants to be acknowledged, for us to hold it, embrace it, fully recognize it. And then this process of recognition, holding, embracing is done, then something, it can go. We can let go of it. So important to avoid this spiritual bypassing by honoring that this is a path, it's a journey, that even as Sahaja often says, realization or an experience is instantaneous, but the deconditioning is a process, and this takes time, and we need to be so full of self-compassion and love and clarity with ourselves, not to go into pretending, because then we lose the point and we are lost in the swirling, in an image, in the personality through sound. Personality, this word comes from when they were in the theaters in Greece, a persona through the voice. And then we're also pretending, yes, I'm good with myself, I'm so in harmony, so in peace. And then we don't allow, there is something, but we don't allow to see it. And I know, because somehow, sometimes I do this myself. I don't want to see what wants to be seen. And this is such a gift, to be vulnerable and allow yourself. There's highs and lows. There's times in the way that, wow, a sense of completion is there. It is so tangible and tasteable. And sometimes I'm in the bottom of my shoes. I'm crying and it's hard, but behind this, there is this recognition that I am, I exist, I perceive this. I'm not caught in this emotion. I can see it, but important to, yes, fully embrace, accept, and hold what is. To fully embrace daily life, or else the easiest way we can avoid having a partner that can push some button on us, or seeing the family that can push some button on us, or working, because working can be so alienating, depending on works, that this triggers something in us. So we can avoid all this, or we can accept to, from this ground, to live a spiritual life, and include what the day offers, what daily life offers through relationship and work and hobbies and passions. And always remember that even in moments of challenge where I'm triggered, that one of my button is pushed, it is an invitation to remember, to remember that it will pass, that what comes, what goes, and we can stay with what remains, as Ramana offers us to do. I invite you now to just take a moment to, you can keep your eyes open, you can close your eyes, and to really be with what is, just to embrace and accept what is alive in this experience right now. And no matter what it is, it might be something that we would label positive or negative. We could label it as pleasurable or painful. No matter how we would label it, behind this, there is this mystery, this ground, this depth of our being that holds it, that is there for whatever is. And I would love to just read some words of Nisargadatta Maharaj. And Nisargadatta Maharaj says, between the banks of pain and pleasure, the river of life flows. By flowing with life, I mean acceptance, letting come what comes and go what goes. Desire not, fear not. Observe the actual as and when it happens. For you are not what happens, you are to whom it happens. You are the ultimate potentiality of which the all-embracing consciousness is the manifestation and expression. And with those words of Nisargadatta, I will say thank you for your presence, and if any questions arise and that you would like to ask, feel free. So if there's no questions, namaste, what to say? Okay, I see things popping up. Yes, the signal might be, there's a big storm. I'm staying at my parents' place and there's a big storm outside with lightnings, so the signal might go out. But while being in the milky states, okay, if we recognize a situation that is pulling us, shall we leave? So thank you, Rebecca, for this question. When you say if we recognize the situation that is pulling us, so I think that you mean pulling us away from our ground, from this sense of inner peace and harmony, should we leave or accept? Every situation is different. What I mean by acceptance, my partner told to me something not a long ago that is so right. She said, I'll try to recall. She said to me, somehow there was a situation where I was triggered. I think it was with my mom actually, and I was really triggered. And she said, the situation might not be fine, but it's fine not to be fine. It's fine not to feel okay. So this is one thing that comes up. And then the situation in which you feel you're pulled out to leave the situation, that might be the best thing to do right now because you're really triggered and you feel that there's a shakiness and maybe nothing can be solved through the present moment. So you allow yourself to maybe leave the room and take some time for yourself to settle down and breathe in deeply, and then maybe you come back and you can speak. So, but accepting that there is something wrong is already a huge step. This acceptance is huge. So yes, don't force yourself to always having to always accept something that triggers you. You can also leave. This is totally fine. I mean, nobody should be insulted in this world, and accept it. There are things which are not just, and we can also want to cut this situation and be somewhere else. This is totally fine. By acceptance, I don't mean that we should allow people to walk on our toes. You can also raise your voice when somebody really step on your toes, and this is good. But yes, accept that you're triggered. This is what I mean by acceptance. Thank you, Rebecca, so much. And I also see a question saying, what has been the biggest challenge for you with integration? First, I want to say it's still a process. It's an ongoing process, and accepting this is already a huge step for me to, through my integration process, to know that it will never be over to integrate. But the biggest challenge somehow to I would use this word of coming out, to have a kind of coming out that yes, this is the life I want to live, to, in front of my loved ones, my family, my dad, my mom, to be able to speak my truth. This was the biggest challenge. There was a lot of timidity and somehow not such a sense of ease to speak about what I was doing in the spiritual community, what I share when I share hatha yoga or meditation. This was for me one of the biggest challenges, somehow to have a coming out, like gay people would do to say, yes, I'm gay, like, yes, I want to live a spiritual life. So this maybe was the biggest challenge for me. And thank you. Yes, I think I just lie down to see. Beautiful. Okay. I wish you all a beautiful evening and live from a place of full embrace and self-love and love. Take care.